Okay, so let's dive into these chakras.
Sounds good.
You've sent over a variety of sources for this deep dive.
Yeah.
Excerpts from an online encyclopedia, a few images, even a snippet from the Rig Veda.
Interesting.
So clearly you're already familiar with the basics,
Yeah.
but looking to go deeper.
Right.
So let's unpack what you shared and see what we can uncover.
Yeah, what's fascinating is even with all the information available today, the concept of chakras still evokes this sense of mystery.
It does, right. It's like this ancient wisdom that's suddenly everywhere in modern culture, you know?
Yeah.
But there's still this question.
Mm-hmm.
Are chakras these legitimate energy centers?
Yeah.
Or are they just a new age invention?
Exactly. And that's where I think a deep dive into the source material can be so insightful.
Okay.
For example, you highlighted a passage in the encyclopedia entry about the historical evolution of chakra systems.
Right.
That's a perfect place to start unraveling this whole mystery.
Okay, let's do it. And since you've included some images, I'm particularly drawn to the one depicting chakras as lotuses. What is the significance of that imagery?
Excellent observation.
Thanks.
The lotus is a powerful symbol in many Eastern traditions, representing spiritual unfolding and the journey from darkness to light.
Okay.
And each chakra, like the lotus, can bloom through practice.
I see the connection. It's like each chakra has this potential to open and expand as we cultivate awareness and work with these subtle energies.
Precisely. Now, to understand this concept more deeply, I think we need to go back to the origins of the word chakra itself.
Okay.
It's a Sanskrit term that literally means wheel or circle.
Okay.
And you'll notice that the images you provided often depict chakras as these spinning vortexes of energy.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And speaking of wheels,
Yeah.
you've also included a snippet from the Rig Veda, one of the oldest sacred texts in Hinduism.
Okay.
And you highlighted a passage that mentions Kunanama, which translates to she who is bent or coiled. And I've heard some scholars see her as a precursor to the concept of Kundalini Shakti.
Right.
Is there a connection there?
That's a great question. And it highlights how the concept of chakras has evolved over time.
Okay.
In the early Vedic texts, we see these hints and glimpses of ideas that later developed into the more formalized chakra system we see in tantric traditions.
So Kunanama might represent this primordial coiled energy that later became associated with Kundalini Shakti, the energy that supposedly lies dormant at the base of the spine.
Exactly. And this coiled energy, or prana, is believed to flow through these subtle energy channels called nadis.
Okay.
Think of them like pathways, like a river system carrying the vital life force throughout the subtle body.
Okay, I'm starting to get a clearer picture here.
Good.
So we have these navies, these energy channels,
Yeah.
and the chakras are like hubs or junction points along those pathways.
Precisely. And these chakras are not physical structures, but rather focal points in the subtle body.
Okay.
That energetic aspect of our being that exists alongside our physical form.
Got it. So chakras are like energy centers within this subtle body.
Yes.
But earlier you mentioned that there's no single universally agreed upon number of chakras. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Absolutely. Well, many people are familiar with the 7-chakra system. It's essential to remember that this is just one interpretation.
Okay.
Buddhist traditions, for example, often focus on 5 primary chakras.
And even within Hinduism itself, there are variations, right?
Absolutely.
You mentioned Ayurveda focusing on 3 marmas.
Yes.
How do those relate to the chakras?
That's a fascinating point, and it highlights the complexity of this topic.
Right.
Ayurveda, the traditional Indian system of medicine, does indeed emphasize these 3 primary marmas, which are considered vital points for maintaining physical and energetic well-being.
So how do they map onto the 7 chakras we've been discussing?
Sure.
Are they completely separate systems, or is there some correspondence?
There's definitely a connection.
Okay.
For example, the marma located in the head corresponds to the upper chakras,
Mm-hmm.
particularly the third eye and crown.
Right.
And the marma in the chest area aligns with the heart chakra.
Okay.
But it's not a one-to-one correspondence.
Right.
Ayurveda views these points more from a physical and energetic perspective,
Mm-hmm.
while the chakra system delves deeper into the psychological and spiritual dimensions.
Okay, so we're seeing that even within one tradition,
Yeah.
there's room for nuance and multiple perspectives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this brings us to another crucial distinction
Okay.
that often causes confusion, the difference between classical interpretations of chakras
Mm-hmm.
and the modern Western chakra system.
Mm-hmm.
That many people are familiar with.
Yeah, that's something I was hoping we could unpack. You see all these chakra charts with rainbow colors and specific psychological attributes.
Right.
It's easy to assume that that's how it's always been understood.
Right. But it's important to recognize that the Western chakra system emerged relatively recently,
Okay.
largely in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, thanks to the influence of Theosophy and figures like H.P. Blavatsky and C.W. Leadbeater.
So it was like a blending of Eastern traditions with Western esoteric and occult systems?
Precisely. And this is where we see the introduction of the Newtonian rainbow colors associated with each chakra,
Right.
something not found in ancient Indian texts.
Okay.
We also see the development of those intricate correspondences with psychological attributes, gemstones, and aromatherapy.
Interesting. So while this Western system has become incredibly popular, it's crucial to remember that it's just one interpretation among many.
Right.
To truly understand the depth and nuances of chakras,
Yeah,
we need to go back to the source, to those classical traditions from which they originated.
exactly. And that's what makes your deep dive so fascinating.
Okay.
You've provided this mix of sources, ancient texts, modern interpretations, even those intriguing images, which allows us to explore the complexities of this concept from multiple angles.
Yeah, I'm already seeing how much richer this understanding becomes when we move beyond those simplified one-size-fits-all explanations. All right, so we've set the stage by exploring the history and different interpretations of chakras.
Right.
Now let's get into the specifics of that 7-chakra system,
Okay.
the one you're probably most familiar with.
And even within this system, there's so much to unpack. It's not just about memorizing colors and locations. It's about understanding how these chakras interact with our physical and emotional and spiritual well-being.
Exactly, and I think having those visuals you provided will help ground this discussion.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the chart you included, and it shows the root chakra Muladhara at the base of the spine. It's associated with the color red and the element of earth.
Right.
What can you tell us about this foundational chakra?
Well, if we think back to that lotus imagery we discussed, the root chakra is like the very base of the plant,
Right.
anchoring it firmly to the earth.
Okay.
It's all about our foundational needs, survival, security, stability. It's the grounding force that allows us to feel safe and connected to the physical world.
That makes sense, especially considering its location at the base of the spine. It's like our energetic root system, isn't it?
Precisely.
Mm.
And when this chakra is balanced, we feel grounded, secure, and able to handle life's challenges.
Okay.
But if it's blocked or imbalanced, we might experience anxiety, fear, or even physical issues related to the lower body.
Now, moving up from the root chakra, we come to the sacral chakra Svadhisthana, located in the pelvic area.
Right.
It's associated with the color orange and the element of water.
Mm-hmm.
What's the significance of this chakra?
This chakra is all about fluidity, creativity, and our connection to pleasure and sensuality.
Okay.
It's linked to our emotions, our relationships, and our ability to experience joy and abundance.
I can see how that connection to water makes sense.
Yeah.
Water is adaptable, flowing, ever-changing, just like our emotions.
Exactly. And just as water can nourish and sustain us,
Right.
this chakra governs our ability to connect with our creative energy and experience life's pleasures.
Okay.
When it's balanced, we feel joyful, passionate, and connected to our creative flow.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's blocked, we might experience emotional instability, relationship issues,
Right.
or even creative blocks.
Interesting. Okay, let's move up to the solar plexus chakra Manipura, located around the navel.
Right.
Associated with the color yellow and the element of fire. I'm already sensing a theme here.
Yes. The elements play a significant role in understanding each chakra's energy.
Right.
The solar plexus is our center of personal power, will, and self-esteem.
Okay.
It's that fire in the belly that drives us to achieve our goals and assert ourselves in the world.
So this chakra is all about our sense of self
Mm-hmm.
and our ability to take action in the world.
Precisely when the solar plexus is balanced,
Mm-hmm.
we feel confident, decisive, and capable of manifesting our desires.
Okay.
But if it's blocked, we might struggle with self-doubt, low energy, or difficulty setting boundaries.
Next, we have the heart chakra, Anahata,
Right.
right in the center of the chest.
Yeah.
It's associated with the color green and the element of air. I have a feeling this one is going to be all about love and connection.
You're absolutely right. The heart chakra is the bridge between the lower, more physical chakras and the upper, more spiritual chakras.
Okay.
It's our center of love,
Yeah.
compassion, forgiveness, and connection to others.
You mentioned earlier that one of the images you provided highlights the heart chakra's connection to forgiveness.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Of course. In many ancient texts, The heart chakra is seen as the place where we process grief, resentment, and emotional wounds.
Okay.
It's through the heart chakra that we learn to forgive ourselves and others,
Mm-hmm.
allowing us to cultivate deeper compassion and love.
That's beautiful. It's like the heart chakra is the place where we learn to let go of those heavy burdens and open ourselves to unconditional love.
Exactly. And when the heart chakra is balanced, we feel loving, compassionate, and connected to ourselves and others.
Okay.
But if it's blocked, we might experience difficulty giving and receiving love, harboring resentment, or feeling isolated.
Okay, moving up to the throat, we find the throat chakra, Vishuddha, associated with the color blue and the element of ether or space.
The throat chakra is all about communication, self-expression,
Mm-hmm.
and speaking our truth authentically.
Okay.
It governs our ability to express our thoughts, feelings, and creativity in the world.
And considering its location, that makes perfect sense.
Yes, it's about finding our voice
Mm-hmm.
and using it to communicate clearly and effectively.
Okay.
When the throat chakra is balanced, we feel confident expressing ourselves.
Right.
We listen attentively to others, and we communicate with clarity and authenticity.
Okay.
But if it's blocked, we might struggle with speaking up, feeling misunderstood, or even experiencing physical issues like sore throats or thyroid imbalances.
Interesting. Now let's move up to the forehead where we find the third eye chakra, Ajna,
Yeah,
between the eyebrows.
right.
It's associated with the color indigo and is often linked to intuition and spiritual insight.
Yeah.
I have to admit, this is one of the chakras that I find most intriguing.
The third eye chakra is fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's often referred to as our inner vision, a
Seven.
seat of intuition, wisdom, and spiritual awareness.
Okay.
It's about seeing beyond the physical realm and accessing deeper levels of knowing.
So it's like our connection to that inner wisdom that goes beyond logic and reason.
Precisely. And when the third eye chakra is balanced,
Right.
we experience clarity, insight, and a strong connection to our intuition.
Mm.
We might even have access to psychic abilities or heightened spiritual awareness.
Yeah, okay.
But if it's blocked, we might struggle with indecision, lack of clarity, or feeling disconnected from our spiritual path.
And finally, we reach the crown chakra, Sahasrara, located at the top of the head.
Right.
It's associated with the color violet or white and represents our connection to the divine and a
Right.
sense of unity with all that is.
This is the chakra of enlightenment, transcendence, and connection to the divine.
Wow.
It's the point where we merge with the universal consciousness and experience a sense of oneness with all creation.
Wow, that sounds incredibly profound.
It is. And when the crown chakra is balanced, we experience a sense of deep peace, purpose, and connection to something greater than ourselves.
Okay.
But if it's blocked, we might feel lost, disconnected, or lacking in the spiritual direction.
This has been such a helpful overview of the seven chakra system, and what's so great is that you've connected these explanations back to the specific images and text that I provided,
Yeah.
making it much more tangible and relevant to my exploration.
I'm glad to hear that. And remember, this is just one interpretation of the chakra system.
Right.
As we discussed earlier, there are variations across different traditions and lineages.
Right. And speaking of different traditions, in the next part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
I'd love to explore how these chakras are actually utilized in specific practices like Kundalini Yoga and Buddhist Tantra. Those are both areas that I'm really interested in learning more about.
I'm happy to delve into those practices with you. They offer fascinating insights into how we can work with these energy centers to cultivate greater well-being and spiritual awareness.
Okay, so we've explored the seven chakras in detail. Right. Now, I'm curious to know how this knowledge is actually applied. You mentioned Kundalini Yoga and Buddhist Tantra.
Yeah,
Can we dive into those a bit?
absolutely.
They both seem to approach chakras from a more practical, experiential perspective.
It's one thing to understand chakras conceptually, but quite another to actually work with them.
Right. So let's start with Kundalini Yoga. I've heard it described as the yoga of awareness.
Yeah.
But how does it actually utilize chakras?
Well, Kundalini Yoga is all about awakening and raising that dormant energy, known as Kundalini,
Uh-huh.
often visualized as a serpent coiled at the base of the spine.
Okay.
Remember that Rig Veda passage we talked about with the figure of Kunanam?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right.
Some scholars see that as a precursor to this concept of Kundalini Shakti.
So Kundalini Yoga aims to activate that primal energy.
Mm-hmm.
But how does that relate to the chakras?
Think of it this way. The chakras are like stepping stones along the pathway of Kundalini's ascent. As this energy rises through the chakras, it's believed to purify and awaken different aspects of our being.
Okay, that makes sense. So, what are some of the specific techniques used in Kundalini Yoga to actually work with the chakras?
Kundalini Yoga utilizes a combination of postures, breathing techniques called pranayama mantras, and meditation.
Okay.
Certain postures are thought to stimulate specific chakras.
Okay.
For example, back bends can help open the heart chakra, while twists can energize the solar plexus.
I've also heard about these things called bija mantras that are
Yes.
used in Kundalini Yoga.
Absolutely. You included a resource that mentions bija mantras, and they're fascinating.
Yeah.
Each chakra has a corresponding bija mantra, a seed syllable that vibrates at the same frequency as that energy center.
Okay.
By chanting these mantras, you can help to activate and balance the corresponding chakra.
Oh, it's like using sound to tune the chakras, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's just one example of how Kundalini Yoga provides a very hands-on approach to working with these subtle energies.
Okay, now what about Buddhist Tantra? How does that tradition utilize chakras?
Buddhist Tantra also sees chakras as vital points along the path to enlightenment.
Mm-hmm.
But the focus is less about awakening Kundalini and more about using the chakras as focal points for meditation and visualization.
So in Buddhist Tantra, the chakras are more like tools for deepening meditation and cultivating specific qualities.
Precisely, for example, you might meditate on the heart chakra to cultivate compassion,
Okay.
or on the throat chakra to enhance communication and clear expression.
It's fascinating how these different traditions, while sharing a common understanding of chakras, approach them in such unique ways.
It speaks to the richness and diversity of these ancient wisdom traditions, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Now, before we wrap up, I wanted to touch on something that was mentioned in the critique of our last deep dive.
Hmm.
It seems like there's a lot of potential for misuse or misinterpretation of chakras, especially in the modern world.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
It's a valid concern. As with any spiritual practice or concept, there's always the risk of oversimplification or commodification.
Right. You see those ads for chakra healing bracelets and instant chakra alignment courses.
Right.
It's tempting to believe that there's a quick fix for everything.
And that's where discernment is so important.
Right.
While chakras can offer valuable insights into our energetic well-being,
Uh-huh.
they're not magic bullets.
Right.
It's about integrating this knowledge into a holistic approach to personal growth and spiritual development.
So it's not about trying to force our chakras to be perfectly balanced all the time,
Right.
but rather about understanding how they function and how we can work with them consciously.
Exactly. And remember, the journey of self-discovery and spiritual exploration is ongoing.
Mm.
There's always more to learn, more to uncover, and more to experience.
That's a great point. It's not about reaching some static state of chakra perfection, but rather about embracing the fluidity and dynamism of these energies.
Well said. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I encourage you to continue exploring the resources you've gathered,
Okay.
perhaps focusing on a specific practice or tradition that resonates with you.
This has been an incredibly insightful journey.
Good.
I feel like I have a much deeper and more nuanced understanding of chakras now, thanks to your guidance.
And remember, this is just the beginning of your exploration.
Right.
The world of chakras is vast and multifaceted.
We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the fascinating world of chakras. Keep those questions coming, keep exploring, and keep diving